The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamite, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Oh, yes. Good morning. That's right. Son of a bitch. I typed the wrong one. You guys, god damn it. Today it is Monday, March 18th, and today is National Biodiesel Day, National Sloppy Joe Day, National Lacy Oatmeal Cookie Day, National Awkward Moments Day, and that's right, shout out to everyone who has made the ultimate sacrifice. It is also National Ultimate Sacrifice Day. And so with all that, yes. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look down below on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday. And today we are only live on YouTube. But nonetheless, I'm over here driving the car. And there he is, Mr. Rico Lamite. That's right, the dope dad himself, without a doubt. Mr.
Right,
Happy
y'all.
Cabbage. Yeah, let's roll, Rico. We got a fast paced show. It's just me, you, and Yarrow today, so should definitely be interesting, you guys.
Well,
Of
let's
course,
start off that interesting, because when you started talking about all these national days and like I listened to all of the days that you said it was, I'm thinking those could all be moved into like one weird, nasty biodiesel, crusty oatmeal cookie day. Like we could just smush those all together and make them into something real twisted.
Even the day for our fallen heroes and survivors.
Well, not that part. Don't
Okay,
just
all
try
right.
to
I'm just
insult me
I
before
didn't
my
think- I didn't-
second
I
cup
didn't
of
think it was
you
coffee.
said all of
fallen.
them. You said all of them. So
I didn't think it was a fallen anything. You just said the ultimate sacrifice. It's the
yeah,
ultimate
that's
sacrifice.
that was for all the soldiers that have made the ultimate sacrifice. That's what that is all about. Is for our veterans, Rico.
Okay.
I mean,
Didn't
recording with you on a Monday morning before the
clarify.
second cup of coffee has kicked in is considered a sacrifice. Maybe not the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, maybe you should drink faster than Yarrow. But yes, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamite. Rico, what do you have this morning for us, sir?
I was going to attempt, to share my screen so I could share this video. I don't know. I don't want to break nothing. So
I don't think you'll break anything, but I don't know if it'll work
perfect.
either. So, whatever.
Let me try because my story is a little bit dependent on the video. We'll try it in a second. So
It's
let me
fast
just get
paced, huh?
started. Yes, it is. So my headline today is from San Jose Spotlight's Jana Kada. Also, a big hat tip to Nick Bradley for putting this on our radar. Newly released security cam footage sure seems to validate all the recent cannabis retailer complaints about cops refusing to protect the property, as they would any other local businesses. A shocking video obtained by San Jose Spotlight appears to show 3 getaway cars easily maneuvering around 2 San Jose Police Department vehicles and escaping unscathed after suspects robbed Exotics, a South San Jose weed shop, formerly known as Lux. Since Jason's on the road and we don't, he's the one that's driving the ship today, and we don't have access to the video, please, apologies ahead of time if the video doesn't go as planned here. But
So you don't have much faith in yourself, huh, Rico?
I got plenty of faith in me,
Okay,
man.
all right. All this apologies in advance. Thought you were on a apology tour with Joe Biden or something.
I'm not a part of our all-star hair feathering production team. So you got me on the sticks. I'm a fish out of water right now. But,
yeah, tell me about it.
Here we go. All right, so sharing. Boom. Y'all see it?
Nope. Oh.
Yeah.
You guys got to watch Stream Button. I'm not sure what you did, Rico, but you got to watch Stream Button.
Ooh.
Look at that. I didn't do that.
Did it work?
Nope.
Can y'all see?
Nope.
Y'all can't see the video playing?
No, we can't see the video playing.
I see it on the live here. I see it in our all right, so never mind. We'll just have to play the video. If you guys want to see the video, you guys gotta hop over to high9news.com. But I'm going to read the description of what it's showing. So shop security camera shows footage of a tall, slender man dressed in black and navy and lime green gloves. He's throwing merchandise in the back of a Navy SUV before two individuals hop into the car. Then a white SUV drives past the Navy SUV and pauses when confronted by two SJPD cars. As a silver sedan, the third vehicle, speeds between the Navy and white SUVs and gets away. The white SUV drives past the police, and the Navy one follows him. And then he stops, backs up, and goes over a landscaped median. All three cars go around the cop cars, and the cop cars do not move at all. Period. All right, so make sure you guys check out the full video after the show. It is definitely worth it. Well, it's been a month since this incident happened, since the robbery went down, and the dispensary owner, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retribution, says he doesn't know if the suspects have been caught. While San Jose PD says that the incident is under investigation and details on any arrest cannot be shared, the shop's owner said that he feels betrayed by the city and police, in part because of the lackluster response, but also because he believes San Jose should be focusing on protecting legal industry while cracking down on the black market. The owner shared the video with local news outlets ahead of San Jose City Council discussion this tomorrow, on cannabis fees and regulations. Per the article, he hopes to highlight the challenging financial climate for dispensary owners in the South Bay and how the city is not providing adequate support in return. I just wish the response was better. I wish we weren't incurring the cost of it. I wish we were getting support. I wish we knew what happened to the suspects, because it's really all about safety. I'm worried because what's even happening with the drugs. Is it sold to underage kids? Is it being made into products that have toxins in them? They're out there now, unregulated. The thieves made off with about $30,000 in flour this round, and the owner says it ain't the first time they've fallen victim to similar incidents in the near past. Meanwhile, SJPD is blaming the ordeal on recently updated pursuit policies prohibiting officers from trying to stop or apprehend suspects. The police's duty manual says that the seriousness of the offense and threat posed to the community or officers by the fleeing suspects must justify vehicle pursuit. A spokesperson for the department had this to say about what happened in the video. In this incident, officers arrived with their emergency lights activated and attempted to block the suspect's exit. The suspects made dangerous, evasive maneuvers and to get past the patrol cars, showing an intent to evade apprehension. Under current policy, officers would not be able to engage in a pursuit of suspects driving in this manner for the crime of commercial burglary. Police said that they received the call at 4:32 a.m., arrived on the scene 4 minutes later. By the end of the call, there were 5 units and a supervisor attached to this event. 5 cars and a supervisor there. and they just drove right by him. However, the dispensary owner's account did not coincide with what the cops had to say. He said that the police didn't even try to stop the suspects after being called before the break-in even happened because he saw their cars patrolling the area. That's the part of this that hurts so much, is what he said. Like, we've been broken in before and we've accepted it, but these guys were caught and the police just let them go. They were actually cornered in the parking lot and they were still allowed to just go. Sean Colley Ray, founder of the Silicon Valley Cannabis Alliance, said that the security camera footage epitomizes a much larger problem of cannabis robberies in San Jose, where suspects have appeared to largely get away with thefts. And I don't know about really what else to say about this one, y'all. The cops were there, and according to their own damn account, there were 5 cars deep. By the time the thieves got in their whips, it's just like the cops just sat there with plenty of room in between each vehicle, just waiting for them to politely swerve around and take off. For those watching today unfamiliar with the area, San Jose is about 35 minutes away from Santa Cruz, the location of the early morning robbery, chase, and shootout that landed dispensary owner Derek Hubbard in jail for defending his property after multiple robberies with similar local police response. I mean, what's the point of even having police if shit like this continues to go down and nobody's getting any help? And if you're thinking this is a result of quote unquote defunding the police policies put forth by liberals, would be wrong. SantaCruz.opengov.com clearly parses out year-to-year budgeting for Santa Cruz and shows last year police got $30.4 million to operate, up from $29.1 million the year before, and they've 17% increased since 2020. San Jose, much larger city and jurisdiction than a more rural Santa Cruz, got a $41 million budget increase end of 2022 and added another $7.3 million to its funding this year, bringing their annual spending to over $500 million for the police for the 2023-24 fiscal year. I don't know where all this money is going, but it sure ain't into any type of assailant apprehension training. And I'm guessing that they use the money to hire a bunch of stunt dummies to show strength in numbers in hopes criminals will just lose faith in themselves, give up on crime, and head back to church or something. I don't know. Maybe y'all can call it. I cannot. I'm Rico Lamite, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. And even though y'all didn't get to see the video, please go check this shit out. It is bewildering at best. And I will not be depending on no welfare check collecting ass police to protect me, my family, or business interests here in California. How about y'all, Jason? You calling cops? You gonna be depending on them?
Man.
This video is stupid.
I mean, this just keeps happening in more and more municipalities throughout California, major cities, all under Democrat control, and it just mind boggles me the lack of anything that law enforcement is doing, especially when they collect so much revenue from these dispensaries in the first place. It is mind boggling to me.
No, it's mind-boggling, like why you would not defund the police. This is after.
I am not for defunding the police.
They've gotten tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars more since that whole quote unquote defund the police movement. This is what they're
I would be
doing.
more for a major citizen oversight committee in regards with how police departments have to spend their budgets and allocate funds. I think that would make way more sense to me.
This is a small parking lot for a dispensary.
They were parking lot pimping, bro.
There's only one exit.
What they think they were at a 49er game?
Guys were cornered. These guys were absolutely cornered, and they literally just like crept around the cops, and then just left, just like that. 5 cop cars.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this, Yarrow?
I mean, it reminds me of that active shooter in Texas where all the cops sat around for 45 minutes outside before they went and dispatched that douchebag. I think there needs to be a lot of latitude for what law enforcement does or doesn't do in the field. Simultaneously, I think there needs to be a minimum standard, like a minimum level of law enforcement. I mean, I'm reeling. Last week, last week, my son was assaulted and broke 2 bones in his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was witnessed by 1 million people in an open environment. And I called the police and asked to press charges. We have uncertain possible surgeries in the future. And unfortunately, they just said, no, thank you. So across the board, and I hate to admit that you're right, it is in mostly democratically controlled markets, but across the board, the lack of accountability is just it is in and of itself criminal. And if that means mandatory civilian review boards for all agencies, we need to create a culture of accountability. It's not the two don't. It's not that you can't appreciate law enforcement while simultaneously calling for a higher level of credibility. It's not one or the other. It's not like you don't back the people in blue just because you say there's room for improvement. And backing the people in blue doesn't mean that we shouldn't have some measure of accountability. The fact that there was these did they put out spike strips? Did they at least try to shoot at the tires? Did they at least ram it? I mean, the people I know who got into law enforcement love that kind of stuff. They drink coffee and they're like, let's go.
Oh yeah, let's break out all the toys.
Yeah. So the idea that, not even, I mean, I understand we should not be killing people on high speed pursuits for things that are not important. But the question I have is somewhere between doing nothing and going overboard, what would have been the gradients or measured response that would have felt situationally appropriate that wouldn't allowed someone to drive away? Because what happens if that's what happens is that goes out on the wire to every professional thief in the world. Yo, I just drove by 5 cop cars and I had 1,000 hot vape carts in the back of my truck.
Oh, these guys are internet sensations in the criminal world.
Dude, this is
yeah,
crazy.
exactly. You might as well just beg that to happen again.
It's just like the guys. I don't know if you guys remember this video, but these guys went and robbed a bank, and then they were on a high speed chase, and then they drove through the hood, just throwing out all the money to everybody in the streets in L.A. This reminds me of a similar situation to that.
Yeah, this is. I don't have anything to compare this video to, man. This is just the cops show up, the lights are on, and they didn't even properly block the only exit. You got 5 vehicles, and you didn't even block the only exit, the one way for these criminals to get out. And y'all just sitting there
you know what would have made this video better, Rico?
I'm going first.
You know what would have made this video better?
What's that?
If the criminals would have just got out and started ghost riding the whip while they were just driving around at 5 miles an hour.
That'd be excellent, like Marshawn Lynch in the golf cart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what they should have done.
I've never seen anything like this. It's I don't know, man. If I was back in my youth, back in my young 20s when I was doing hood rat shit,
you'd be doing a lot more hood rat shit for sure.
You'd be doing a whole lot more. If the cops were this lackadaisical, I've never seen no mess like this.
Yeah, man. You know what? I mean, it's so bad. It's so bad. We're just gonna have to go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Oh man, that was weird. Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
Oh man, and we're back.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering, next. I'm wondering if we should go to Yarrow first because I have the remainder of the stories, and I'd love to hear.
No, keep me for last. Keep me for last.
You want to go for last? Okay.
Y'all two got the second half of the show regardless because Monday.
I know. You're about to leave. Okay, all right. I guess I'm gonna go into my second story then. Just because my first story, Rico, is so long and you would be gone by the time I finished it.
Let's do it.
Oh man, yeah. Let me pull it up. All right, we're ready. Whenever you're ready.
He's the cannabis industry's very own Kaiser Brose, known as White Gucci in Detroit, and known for smoking the best weed in the world. But also, I think I got a good idea that if Jason actually did get hired as a North Carolina deputy, we'd see something similar to what we just saw in that last video.
Oh boy.
Coming to the stage, Jason Beck.
I feel like that was a disabled jab, Rico. Like you're jabbing at the disabled because they can't run as
If that's
fast.
how you want to take
or-
it, man. You and your
Yeah.
feelings, like
That's
that's
messed
you know,
up. That's messed up. That
your
you're
word,
gonna,
your words, not mine.
yeah, I'm just telling you. Just telling you. You know what I mean? Just saying. Just saying. Oh man, let me tell you something. Oh man, things are just a mess in Michigan because a Lansing marijuana business loses licenses over illicit products, you guys. That's right. The Michigan Cannabis Regulatory Agency on Thursday announced that a Lansing marijuana business would surrender its medical and adult use processor licenses because it had been mixing legal and illicit products for the retail market, you guys. The CRA, which is the Cannabis Regulatory Association, or administration, excuse me, said it signed a consent order and stipulation with TAS Asset Holdings, which also used the name Noble Road Company. In February of 2023, the CRA issued formal complaints and announced summary suspension of TAS medical and adult use processor licenses. TAS has been closed since February of 2023. Its licenses shall not be renewed, reinstated, reissued, or reactivated, limited, or otherwise at any future date, the CRA said. Man, they really pissed somebody off. In quotes, based on its investigation of the conduct alleged in the complaint, the CRA determined at that time that the safety of health of patrons or employees was jeopardized by TAS continued operation and that emergency action was required, the CRA said. TAS Asset Holdings, 919 Filey Street, Suite A, was accused of combining illicit marijuana products with regulated marijuana products before selling those items. The affected marijuana products were marketed under the brand Fuego, Fwaygo, extracts, and the product name Space Rocks. The product was manufactured between November 10th and November 17th of 2022, and a review of the video surveillance footage at the time showed the TAS employees were bringing additional unregulated product into the business from their personal vehicles, the CRA said. The TAS representative admitted that the business's signature product, Space Rocks, is produced using the untagged THCA powder, the CRA said in a previous press release. The CRA formal complaints allege 23 regulatory violations against each of the TAS Asset Holdings processor licenses. And man, oh man, oh man, these guys, bro, in Michigan, I can't wait to hear what you guys say about this. This is so stupid to be doing this, bringing in trap product in your licensed product. I mean, there's so much extra product on the legal market, and that's why it floods the trap. These guys are doing it in reverse. What do you guys have to say about this? You're on mute, Rico.
I said they hustling backwards.
They're hustling backwards. They're moonwalking. All those space rocks. These guys.
I know.
This is a, I mean, who does this? I mean, I guess it's kind of close to the distillate case that we covered last week when they were mixing the hemp derived distillate with the cannabis derived distillate in Missouri. But Missouri didn't say we're just going to take all your guys' licenses like that.
I mean, Michigan's weird, man. Michigan's weird, and it just doesn't, like, a lot of stuff just doesn't add up to, like, the way that they handle their regulatory body and these lawsuits, and then the state Supreme Court throwing out cases because she believed that cannabis is federally illegal, so you can't really sue anybody anyways. Like, I don't know, man. And I believe it's the only state that allows Metric to suspend the licenses or actually fine the licensees and put a pause on the licensees' actual businesses if they don't. If
Well,
they
this
fall
article
behind on their metric payments.
Interesting. Oh, that's an interesting one
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That is a direct conflict of interest, right? Because how the fuck is Metric, a privately owned company, going to fine you or going to be in charge of you actually operating your business? Because they have to pay Metric fees every month in Michigan.
I wonder if this had anything to do, Rico, if this license revocation has anything to do whatsoever with the still missing $40 million of the veterans' money.
I don't know. Somebody get Chris Webber on the phone.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Do you have any thoughts on this, Yarrow?
I think it's too soon to be teasing. Too soon to be teasing about the missing 40 million, and it's too soon. I'm stung a little bit on Crunchy Oatmeal Day. I mean, in respect to license revocation, I mean, I have had concerns that sometimes those takings don't include the robust due process. Those licenses are very valuable, and they deserve to have processes where those agencies have appeal processes and there's some checks and balances. And I also think regulators are obviously their hands are often tied, and showing that they're doing something is important for them. And so license revocation is a tool, right?
Interesting. Okay,
where are you right now, Yarrow?
Yeah, I mean, it is a tool. That is for sure. It is within the wheelhouse, and they do have to show that they can use their power if they need to, just to set the example. But these guys, oh man,
Yarrow, are you dialing in from the bathroom stall?
Yarrow's in some...
Yeah. No, not only am I in the bathroom stall, Rico, but that's my foot that's tapping on yours in the stall right next to you, and I keep waiting for you to give me the green light for what I call extended footsie.
Yarrow Cooper in Northern California's very own Deep Throat.
Yeah. Oh my God, no. So no, I'm actually at the Permit Resource Management Department in Sonoma County, where all of the exciting, boring permit-related stuff happens, and so I have my library voice on.
Yeah, so you should
get some of the bureaucrats in there to go live.
This is one of those times, Rico, when he's doing cannabis and real estate at the same time, so there's a lot of money on the table.
Would you call this special teams consulting?
Oh, that's cute. I see exactly what you guys did there. Here's a good story for you, Rico. I think you may like this. You just may like this. This is New York, all right? The Dems propose a bailout of marijuana farms. That's right. New York isn't the first state to legalize adult use marijuana, but it may become the first to have a bailout for marijuana farmers. Included in the state Senate's one House budget approved earlier this week is $128 million to support the state's legal cannabis market. The money includes $60 million for cannabis farmer loans, $40 million for grants through a newly created Cannabis Farmer Relief Fund, and $28 million for cannabis farmer refundable tax credits to help offset money lost by farmers due to the state's slow creation of a legal adult use marijuana market. The Senate is also proposing modifications to a proposal by Governor Kathy Hochul to repeal and replace the cannabis potency tax with language that phrases in a permanent rate for the new wholesale tax over a multi-year period, and to repeal the excise tax on medical cannabis, in quotes. We are now 3 years into where we have passed the legalization of adult use marijuana in New York State. 3 years now this month, said State Senator George Borrello, Republican from Sunset Bay, on the Senate floor. He also says, we are now proposing a bailout for pot farmers of $128 million. We all, I think, would agree this has been an abject failure. It has been said on both sides of the aisle, and somehow New York State has managed to screw up pot. I don't know how that happens, but we did. Borrello asked State Senator Michelle Hitchney, Democrat from Kingston, and Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman, if other states have had to spend money on a bailout for marijuana farmers, with Hitchney replying that she isn't aware of any other states that have had to take such steps. Borrello said he has farms in the 57th Senate District that are struggling financially because there was no legal marijuana market on which to sell their crops. And one reason the bailout is necessary is Hochul's veto last year of legislation authorizing conditional adult use cultivator and processor licenses to sell tested, packaged, and sealed cannabis products and cannabis to a cannabis dispensary facility licensed by a tribal nation for retail. That bill, which Hinchley sponsored, with which Borrello voted for and advocated for in a letter to Hochul last summer, would have opened up a market for marijuana farmers. The Senate's proposed $128 million bailout would be limited to adult use cultivator license holders, and one of the groups the legislator tried to help last year, Hinchley said, the program will also require farmers to show proof of financial loss, including proof of missed loan payments. In quotes, I didn't right now have any numbers on the broader spectrum of cannabis across the state, but I think it's incredibly important to recognize and acknowledge that these are growers who we asked to grow the product for the market. And so the $228 million here is to cover the losses they would have not seen since the rollout was delayed, and making sure they have funds to be able to stay in business until next growing cycle, Hinchley said. Borrello was also critical of the Office of Cannabis Management, which he said is filled with employees earning more than $100,000 a year, and what he said is a lack of enforcement of shops selling cannabis illegally, while the statute struggles to set up its legal markets. Hochul's executive budget includes a plan to broaden the authority of the Office of Cannabis Management and local government agencies to padlock stores selling cannabis without a license. Borrello said that plan doesn't go far enough, and in quotes, so I realize now we've got to dedicate even more funding, Borrello said, but this was sold to the people of New York as a panacea. There was going to be all this amazing new market, this amazing new industry, and it was going to create hundreds of millions of dollars a year in new tax revenue, and we were going to have all these entrepreneurs all over New York State, and they were going to be making money. Look where they are now. The only people making money are the people who are doing it illegally. Those are the only folks making money right now. This has been a sad rollout, and we need to fix it. I'm glad we're going to help our farmers, but I don't see any end to this until we start first doing and foremost what we should have done. If people are selling pot illegally from a storefront, I don't care if it's in New York City or if it's in my town or wherever it is. These folks need to go to prison. Fines, seizures, those are just a cost of doing business for these folks. They just add that into the cost. They close, they reopen until you really have the spine to put people in prison for selling drugs illegally. This isn't going to end, he says. Well. Sounds like New York is going to give all of these farmers a big government bailout, and I'm conflated on here. And seeing as how we only have Yarrow, I don't know if you're good, Yarrow, to comment on this right now, but if not, I'll just go into my rant.
Go into your rant, and I'm good to comment on it. But go into your rant, please.
Okay, so here's my thing. This is such a joke. The fact that we are talking about this. But I will say that I do. The farming industry is the most subsidized, one of the most subsidized industries in the country, and I think all of our farmers should receive more, because without them, none of us would be able to eat. And that's something that all Americans do every day, 3 times a day, or possibly even more. Now, with this bailout, I'm like kind of conflicted, because it's like they like asked all these hemp farmers to grow all this weed. But I think that they have some valid arguments in the stance of where, like, hey, the state was slow to roll it out, not to mention they didn't allow for them to be able to sell the product in other ways, and you only can make so much distillate with what limited manufacturing they have out there. So this is I. I totally agree with this Republican Senate member in New York. Is like when will the money ever stop for this? Because once they do this, then all these other states are going to do it. I know the California outdoor farmers, if New York passes this, are going to go to Newsom and be like, hey, we need some type of bailout too. And I just see this as a never-ending cash funnel of more government spending. It's all you, Yarrow, if you have a thought.
New York is the gift that keeps on giving, and we've said it here before. It's both sad and funny. There's some sort of German word for like not taking joy in other people's suffering, Studentsiden or something like that, and like we're not supposed to take joy in other people's suffering because there's real entrepreneurs and there's real social equity operators and there's real culture and there's real clients and real patients, and so we make these jokes, but the truth is there are negative outcomes. There are undesired consequences of all of this, and we get to sit here and go ha ha, and there's some ha ha. I mean, I'm here to be ha ha, like I want to be yee ha ha. But the truth is, New York has not seemed to figure out the connection between the problems that it's created and its role in those problems. It's like when my kid was playing catch with a bow and arrows. He was throwing the arrows up in the air and looking up, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing you could play catch with. Like, I would rather you play catch with a dog turd from the lawn. Like, anything that you're going to look up at and play catch with, anything would be better than an arrow, which is going to point straight down and hit you in the eye. So play catch with the dog turd, play catch with a pine cone, play catch with any ball that's in the backyard. Anything but an arrow, please play catch with it. And so when I think about how they've rolled this out, it reminds me of my kid playing catch with an arrow. And so I feel sad, but I feel sorry for the people involved, but I'm also like, guys, we saw this coming. We knew that you were going to be a dumpster fire. And it doesn't mean that California got it all right. It doesn't mean that Oregon and Washington, some of these other mature markets, that we got it all right. You can't look at the rollout in more mature markets as a reason to discount or dismiss the experience that has been gleaned from the rollout in those more mature markets. And New York, what was it, like 2 weeks ago, the governor was talking about she was talking about, that it's been like a total mess. And she said, like, the quiet part out loud, and you and I, we were on the show, we talked about, like, well, if it's a mess, whose fault is that? Under whose watch did that occur? Like, what are you doing about the mess? And so that's really what I want to focus on for New York, is like, what are we doing about it? Like, because there's going to continue to be just this never-ending gift of new data points about what could have been better, should have been different, didn't need to be so cattywampus. And so I'm still really excited about that market, and I like a lot about that area, that region, their contribution. Look, I mean, it's such an important dot on the map. It can't be overstated. And here we see just fumble and blunder after mistake and misstep, and I would love to see accountable leadership that listens, that has gone out and paid attention to what could be avoided, and that has some salvage plan. And I'm afraid that if they don't get that kind of leadership, that they're going to continue to have never-ending examples of what
Yeah.
not to do.
Well, I mean, speaking of never-ending examples of what not to do, two of our other three stories today involve New York. So we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to come right back, and we will see you all in a second. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get yourself a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
That's right, baby. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology. I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on athletes who have chronic pain or injury due to their sport, or the legends of the chronic in the game, baby.
Oh, yeah, you know what it is. We just stretched, and now we're gonna smoke, because you know what it is.
That's right. I love intuitively creating a session based on the individual I'm working with. We'll go through a few assessments, look at the past health history, injury, or anything that's still affecting you today, and create a customized session just for you. Let's go.
All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. I know we'll appreciate it, you'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all the articles that we cover on today's show, you can review at our website at www.high9news.com. But coming up, mark your calendars. May 3rd, Friday, May 3rd, we are going to be hosting a comedy night called The Shit Show over here at the studio. So make sure you head over to www.cloudmedia.partners to purchase your tickets. It's called The Shit Show. Just click on events and you will see it, and you'll be able to purchase your tickets, and we will see you then.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
All right, and we're back. We're back. Now, Yarrow, I just have to warn you. This my next story. It's long. Okay, so I hope none of you fall asleep. But
It's not the size. It's not the length of the story, Jason. It's how you read it.
Well, I hope I keep you entertained throughout. So, man, this is another New York story, you guys. You're gonna love this. Terrified to criticize, accusations of hostility and retaliation surface against New York's Office of Cannabis Management, you guys. That's right. Industry stakeholders are alleging the New York Office of Cannabis Management, the agency charged with overseeing the state's legal marijuana market, is using enforcement powers to retaliate against those who speak out against its part in the flawed rollout of the new marketplace. Audio recordings, emails, and social media posts, along with more than a dozen interviews with business owners and others, evidence why these operators are so scared to talk. They're afraid to lose or be denied a license or experience, in quotes, selective enforcement. In quotes, it seems we want to enforce on the people who speak out, said Ruben Lindo, an entrepreneur and founder of multi-state cannabis brand Black Mar Farms. And OCM leadership is doing nothing about it, he said. Though the worries have been an open secret within the Empire State's cannabis industry for more than a year, the circumstances around the OCM's first recall of a cannabis product and what happened after are now bringing these concerns front and center. And several of the allegations revolve around a top state official who has been openly hostile toward people who disagree with OCM's methods. Well, I mean, New York is a breeding ground for cancel culture, so I can't say that I'm not surprised that this is happening. But they say making examples of bad actors. Jenny Argy was thrilled to answer New York's call in 2022 as one of the state's first licensed processors who convert the plant into edibles, vapes, and topical ointments, among other products. Like many in the nascent space, Argy, a cancer survivor, scrimped and saved to start Jenny's, a company that specifically targets a wellness niche, sugar-free, vegan, kosher, and organic gummies. She took out a second home loan to open her Hudson Valley facility and later turned down offers from large corporations hoping to buy into her business, she said. Yet, throughout the following year, Angie noticed the proliferation of illicit products entering the market with impunity. She began speaking out, first in print and ultimately at a New York Senate cannabis hearing in October of 2023, where she explained to senators how New York companies were importing illegal products and passing them off as grown in state. Legislators asked how she knew this, and Argy didn't answer at the time, but she had the information on good authority. Those details came from Damian Fagan, OCM's chief equity officer responsible for overseeing the social and economic equity initiatives laid out in the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. New York Cannabis Insider reached out to Fagan for comment on this article, but was directed to the agency's communications department. Prior to the hearing, Argy had recorded a phone call with Fagan during which he explained that the agency was aware of illegal practices but were choosing not to, in quotes, start a full-fledged crackdown yet because those actions would further cripple the market, he says. The office would be looking to, in quotes, make examples of bad actors by the first quarter of 2024, Fagan said on the call, which was reviewed by the New York Cannabis Insider. Fagan also discussed other infractions going uncorrected in New York's market, such as deep-pocketed brands offering cushy deals to retailers in order to box out smaller brands. Argy sent the audio to fellow processors who were confused about why large brands were being allowed to engage in shady business practices at the expense of small actors. When enforcement didn't come, Argy sent the recording to New York Cannabis Insider, but requested not to be named as the source. Fagan's comments were published in a November article about a top cannabis regulator about the agency's hands-off stance toward rule breakers, and the day after the story published, Fagan called the New York Cannabis Insider reporter, yelling, cursing, and signaling out Argy by name as the source of the leaked audio. In quotes, he says, "I know it was Jenny," Fagan said during the call. The reporter did not divulge the source of the recording, and less than a month later, on December 12th of 2023, the OCM sent out a nationwide press release about its first and only cannabis recall to date. The products in question were Argy's. Well, surprise, surprise. Public health and safety, a big part of New York's rationale for legalizing cannabis in 2021 was rooted in the idea of public health and safety, and the OCM has spent millions of dollars to hammer that point home and push consumers toward the legal market. Every cannabis product must be tested by a state-certified laboratory to ensure it's free of harmful ingredients and its exterior label matches what's inside the package. OCM is expected to review those lab results before allowing a product to head to store shelves, but ultimately the agency holds processors like Argy responsible for deciding whether their products pose a public health risk. In quotes, "It is the responsibility of the licensee to consider any risks to the health of consumers," according to OCM testing guidance. As extensively documented by New York Cannabis Insider, there are numerous products on New York shelves that contain rates of bacteria, yeast, and mold at more than 100 times what's allowed under the state medical rules, posing a potential serious health threat to adult use consumers, according to experts. None of those products have been recalled, and additionally, a New York Cannabis Insider investigation investigation published last March, which that found that the majority of the best-selling weed available in the nascent marketplace at the time contained drastically lower THC than advertised. In response, the OCM shifted its testing standards, but never recalled any of the products either. The agency's action against RG in December stemmed from the fact one of her gummy products advertised a 1 milligram higher potency on the label versus what was in the box. RG fixed the issue but didn't retest the products, which triggered the recall, according to the OCM. The remediated products passed inspection after testing, and RG said by that point the damage had already been clocked. She says RG's brand, Jenny's, was on the evening news in New York City. The national outlet Newsweek headlined their coverage, and weed gummies recall sparks warning not to eat them. Reporters hounded RG throughout the following days, and in quotes, "It was just all of a sudden, all of these people calling me for comments, my name in the news, and I didn't know what to do," said RG. People questioned whether my product was safe. We remediated it immediately, she says. For the state's first and only recall to publicly shame a company for the level of an infraction when there are far more egregious and public examples of worse actors struck many at the time as concerning, in quotes. "I've been in the industry a long time, and I have seen more egregious cases of negligence or even downright malfeasance," said Lindo of Blackmar Farms, in quotes. Is this targeted or an example of selective enforcement, he asked. One former OCM official granted anonymity to protect their job also said the timing of the recall around RG's public comments was suspicious, and to date, none of the brands mentioned by Fagan in this conversation with RG have been recalled. In quotes, "Inspections and recalls are part of everyday work to ensure our cannabis industry is producing safer, tested products," said OCM Executive Director Chris Alexander in a statement. "We are proud of the diligent work our compliance team performs day in and day out to uphold state standards." Really? Because you guys allow them to buy year and a half old weed and say that it's okay. So this is a terrible situation going on in New York. But in comparison, New York Cannabis Insider reviewed multiple products available on legal dispensary shelves in early March, and there are cannabis beverages that have child-resistant packaging like safety locks on the cap, despite one of the leading causes for cannabis-related emergency room visits being children ingesting edibles thinking they were candy. There are also products with missing or doctored certifications of analysis, laboratory results required to be printed on the packaging, that have been reported to the OCM's compliance division but never recalled. When presented with these findings, OCM compliance staff said that recalls and enforcement were based on a rolling schedule and that the agency uses a sliding scale of severity when deciding which products to go after. Now that just sounds crazy to me. Like that is 100% the definition of selective enforcement right there. But RG's infraction was very minor, said John Vaval, president of the Association of New York Cannabis Processors. She admitted she was wrong. She recalled the products and she took care of it, but it was not a risk to health and safety. In quotes, "The fact is, we know so many other things that are much worse. People bringing in illicit products to the market, and they chose to hit Jenny hard," Valvolo said. "Yeah, yet that was just the start." Other incidences continue as RG's recall began circulating through social media. Other concerning email, social media posts, and text messages with the OCM came into focus. For example, Jeanette Miller, a licensed cannabis cultivator near Buffalo, made headlines after she brought a noose to a September Cannabis Control Board meeting as a symbol of the suicidal thoughts she and others were experiencing due to the financial stress of the market. The gesture was controversial in a room where many participants were minorities, and it upset the OCM enough that the agency redacted the incident from its September meeting minutes. The agency later reversed its decision in part at the behest of local journalists. Then in January, Miller received an OCM email regarding her license renewal process. The phone number for the licensing department included at the bottom of the email and verified by New York Cannabis Insider directed her to a suicide help hotline. In quotes, "It was triggering all over again," said Miller, who has been vocal about her mental health journey. In quotes, "I was shocked. I couldn't believe they would do that," she said. "I had to call the number twice just to make sure it was really what it was and what I thought it was." In early February, Joe Rossi, the cannabis practice group leader at lobbying and consulting firm Park Strategies, which represents a number of cannabis business sides, criticized the OCM on Twitter for its lag in licensing. Fagan, the chief equity officer, took a screenshot of the tweet and posted it on his personal Instagram with the content, "Please stop twisting yourself in knots so publicly because you don't understand the industry," he says. It made Rossi nervous, he said, that a public official would openly take a stance against him for fear that he or his clients would be treated unfairly or viewed unjustly in the future. He submitted a report of the incident to the New York State Inspector General, and in quotes, "To go on your Instagram during the workday, no less. Put down the social media tools," said Rossi. "Focus on your job." Rossi said he received multiple text messages from small business owners and industry players after the social media posts, and in quotes, and there is why I'm afraid to speak out," read one of the messages verified by New York Cannabis Insider. RG received similar messages after her recall. In quotes, "I assume it is because you spoke out at the Senate hearings, which makes the rest of us terrified to criticize," read one. And another quote, "I feel that they are going to target my clients if I speak out too much," read another. Around this time, RG, who is on the board of the Association of New York Cannabis Processors, wanted to go on the record about why she had leaked the audio, in part to clear her name. The December recall damaged her reputation, and dispensaries had reached out inquiring whether her products were safe. "It wasn't an easy decision." In quotes, she says, "It's tough because I'm scared, but I am more scared not to have integrity and speak my mind," RG told New York Cannabis Insider in early February. "I am fully aware that after this article comes out, I stand to be rated for more scrutiny to be placed on my product." New York Cannabis Insider notified the OCM on February 28th that RG wished to go on the record and ask for a comment, and 6 days later, RG's fears were realized. That's right, you guys, the stop work. On March 5th, the OCM conducted an unscheduled inspection of RG's Hudson Valley facility, this time issuing a full stop work order and quarantining all of her products. The inspectors zeroed in on a piece of machinery that used a solvent that was not OCM approved. The solvent R134A is used in a handful of states, including at a facility in New Jersey, but not in New York. It was approved by the FDA in 2001, and the European Union unilaterally approved the chemical for use in its burgeoning hemp market. Its pharmaceutical version is commonly used in children's inhalers. In quotes, "It's a cleaner, safer technology," RG said. Additionally, the solvent was listed on RG's packaging, which had been reviewed under the previous recall. So when inspectors visited her facility last week, one of RG's employees asked them why this issue wasn't raised prior. In quotes, "Why didn't OCM tell us before? Why didn't anyone look at the packaging if you were looking so closely at stuff?" said that employee in a video reviewed by New York Cannabis Insider. And another quote, "We could have fixed this months ago," they said. "I wish they wouldn't have done that," one of the inspectors responded, "but I guess it wasn't on their radar at the time." And stop orders are issued when violations pose an immediate risk to public safety or the safety of employees, or when the business owner is non-cooperative with officials, according to state regulators. Jason Centinella, RG's attorney, said the stop work order is not warranted, and based on our review of the facts, the actions of the OCM are not consistent with New York law and are retaliatory. "We plan to vigorously pursue all of Jenny's rights and remedies," said Centinella, and one processor, speaking anonymously out of fear of retaliation, said they had considered switching to the same machine RG used, but did not because it was too costly, not because it was not approved. The OCM denied RG's formal request on Monday to lift the stop order, and in documents, the Office of The office said RG would have to provide additional material and evidence about the solvent's safety. In quotes, licensees have a duty to comply with New York state laws and regulations, said OCM's Alexander. The operator in question failed to do so on 2 separate occasions, and in both instances, when OCM became aware of noncompliance, our regulations acted swiftly and according to the laws and regulations. In the aftermath of the recall, RG's products have been put on a quarantine, meaning they cannot be on shelves until the state conducts an investigation into her safety. Her cash flow has stopped, and she is teetering on the brink of default, she said. After an already drawn-out, chaotic start to the market's rollout, in quotes, if this doesn't lift, I'll have to sell my facility and my house. I have about a week of runway without any sales, said RG, and not only will this kill my business, it will also destroy my reputation, she says. Well, man, this definitely sounds retaliatory, and man, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, Yarrow.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. So, I agree with about 90% of what Ruben Lindo says.
Mm-hmm.
But I am still waiting for him to adjust his curriculum vitae and to admit that he didn't play in the NFL. And if you're going to keep it on your LinkedIn, even after people have criticized your lack of accuracy, and your only pivot is to show me your Canadian Football League card, and I run it up the flagpole, and my brother's a vice president of a football team, and I actually check on it, and you've never played it down on the field, I have to say I agree with what you say, but I don't know that you are the most credible spokesperson for the industry if part of your resume was built on smoke and mirrors. And so every time I talk to him about this privately, he says, it doesn't matter. I'm a successful businessman. I said, yes, but, you know, pretending to be a professional NFL player is almost, not entirely, like stolen valor, because our society very much appreciates those who've served this country and those who have shown the intestinal fortitude and the leadership qualities to perform at the level required to be a professional NFL athlete. So I'm curious why people think they get to be the spokesperson for an industry if they have not cleaned up their own representations about how they've gotten to where they are. So that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Like, really, love what you say, but clean it up, man. If you didn't play in the NFL, don't put it on your LinkedIn. And when I privately message you and say you might want to be more accurate the way you present yourself, pointing out your current successes is not the mitigation to misrepresenting your successes in the past. So that's the first thing. That's not even about the article. That's just about the person who's being quoted in the article. So when it comes to the article, I mean, look, I can understand why she didn't reveal her sources. That could be literally dangerous. And I'm very conflicted because on the one hand, I think that enforcement and prohibition has proven to be a failure time and time again. And on the other hand, if people could do whatever they want and 5 cop cars don't even stop one burglar robbing a dispensary, and we can't get, you know, some support for the industry, it's going to be real hard for the regulated industry in New York to do well because of all the bodegas and all of the product. And so I think on a case-by-case basis, these agencies, they do need to have some flexibility about what they choose to enforce against and what they don't. But I think the but on that is when the industry comes and asks for support, these agencies also need to show that they're supporting the industry. And that might not mean passing on something when an operator says, hey, here's what I believe to be actionable information. And we know that enforcing against the unregulated market in the state of New York would be like playing whack-a-mole. And so they don't have unlimited resources to go after every single unpermitted activity, unregulated transaction, unsanctioned facility. I mean, it's just they don't have the resources.
But doesn't this sound like selective enforcement to you, Yarrow? Like that?
Absolutely. Okay. All enforcement is selective enforcement. And that's the thing that's hard for most people to truly appreciate. All enforcement is selective enforcement. And there is absolutely discretion, and there is bias, and there's opinions about who and what gets enforced against. And it doesn't mean that those enforcements are unjust or unfair, but they're all selective.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do think it's a problem. And I don't know how you support a fledgling, nascent, newly regulated industry in New York if you're still going to allow unregulated activity to occur so blatantly, so consistently, so permissively. Like, you got to show the industry that you're working to support that industry. And I think that the more holistic way to support the industry is to make it profitable, lower the taxes, make it so that people want to go to a dispensary versus something that's not a dispensary. The dispensaries need to win against the trap based on merit. And that's going to have to be based on the quality of product, the quality of the pricing, and the quality of the user experience when they go to these stores. And so in order for the regulated market to compete, it needs a bit more leveling of the playing field. And part of that is the cost of operating these businesses. Everybody wins. I think if you can lower the taxes and you've got a nice, bright, well-lit dispensary where people could take care of a return if their gummies all melted into one big blob, then you win against the trap. But if New York had to decide what are the three most important things that it needs to change, absolutely, access to brick and mortar retail is got to be up there on the top of the list.
Yeah, I feel really bad for this for this producer, and I think the state definitely overreached. And Anna Lewis in the chat, she says that she thinks that this is a civil rights case, and I happen to agree with that. I think this is definitely a civil rights case where they can prove provoked enforcement in regards to.
In a perfect world, regulators and operators are working together to deal with pain points that affect all stakeholders. That's the perfect world. The further we get away from that, the less functional this regulated system is going to be. Hard stop. We don't have to all like each other, but we got to figure out ways to get along so everybody can survive and thrive. And there's a lot of things that happened in California that operators were not happy about. There were positions the DCC took that were really, really unfair.
Yes, you're right.
And playing the long game or the meat.
No.
And I don't see New York understanding the need to work with the operators. And so when this operator came to them and said, "Hey, what's up?" The regulators need to not just tell you what the rules are, they need to figure out ways to help the industry. And that's a measure of cooperation that if it's not there, boy, what a missed opportunity.
I agree.
Because, we can look at the other way that this could have played out. Like, she came and said, "Look, here's the problem." And they could say, "Wow, that's really important to us. We don't have enough resources. We are spread thin and we cannot enforce against everything, but we're going to prioritize this for you and for the industry and for the stability of this newly regulated market." And even if they did a poor job enforcing, the fact that they were responsive, they would have got more points, more kudos, more karma, more credit out of just showing that they were being responsive to a constituent concern. They would have gotten so much points. And instead of this nice lady being more than a little bit frustrated, she would have become a devotee. She would have been an unabashed cheerleader for regulators and the function of regulation and the way in which it could support this nascent industry. So there was a missed opportunity to at least try something, try a little bit. Don't try nothing. Any number better than 0 feels better than zero. And so that seems like it was a strategic blunder to not try to support the industry by being more responsive to what she had to say.
Yeah, I feel you. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to keep this rolling. We're going to be right back.
Get ready for the 20-year anniversary celebration of the Emerald Cup. The Emerald Cup will be held at the Henry J. Kaiser Center for the Arts in downtown Oakland, May 4th and 5th. Get your tickets now for best pricing. Cannabis categories include flower, pre-rolls, solventless concentrates, solvent concentrates, cartridges, edibles, topicals, tinctures, and alternative cannabinoids. So enter early for your chance to be a winner at the 20-year anniversary Emerald Cup competition.
All right, Yarrow, we're back. We are back, Yarrow. You want me to go into this last one and have you go last? You sure? I think you might like this. I think you might like this one.
Fire away.
All right, here we go. It's a quickie. Morocco. That's right. Morocco celebrates a huge cannabis harvest legally for the first time. Morocco's first legal cannabis harvest was 294 metric tons in 2023 after the country approved its cultivation and export for medicine and industrial uses. The cannabis regulators had said that the harvest was made by 32 cooperatives that brought together 430 farmers covering 277 hectares in the northern Rif mountain areas of Al Hukalima, Tananout, and Shefashavan. ANRAC claimed. The United Nations Drug Agency says about 47,000 hectares of the Rif are devoted to cannabis output, roughly a third of the amount in 2023 after government crackdowns. And this year, the regulator is examining applications by 1,500 farmers who originized themselves into 130 cooperatives, the ANRAC said. Cultivation of the local drought-enduring landrace known as Beldia, Beldia, began last month, it said. Although Morocco is a major cannabis producer, officially, cannabis use for adult use purposes is illegal. In practice, it is tolerated, however. Nearly 1 million people live in the areas of northern Morocco where cannabis is the main economy activity, and it has publicly grown and smoked there for generations, mixed with tobacco, traditional long stem pipes with clay bowls. The legislation was intended to improve farmers' incomes and protect them from drug traffickers who dominate the cannabis trade and export it illegally. So far, 2 legal cannabis transformation units have been operating and 2 others are waiting for equipment, while 15 cannabis products are in the process of being authorized for medical use. ANRAC said that Morocco is also seeking to tap into a growing global market for legal cannabis and awarded 54 export permits last year. It comes as Germany has joined the small group of countries and jurisdictions that have legalized cannabis, and the Bundestag passed a law allowing individuals and voluntary associations to grow and hold limited quantities of the drug. The law passed by Chancellor Olaf Scholz, ruling 3-party coalition, legalizes cultivating up to 3 plants for private consumption and allowing up to 25 grams of cannabis. Larger scale, but still non-commercial cannabis production will be allowed for members of the so-called cannabis clubs with more than 500 members, all of whom must be adults, and only club members can consume their product. And in quotes, "We have 2 goals: to crack down on the black market and improved protection of children and young people," Health Minister Karl Ludebrecht said at the start of a rowdy debate where the opposition accused him of promoting drug use. In quotes, "You are asserting in all seriousness that by legalizing more drugs, we will contain drug use among young people," said Christian Democrat legislator Tino Sorge. And in quotes, "This is the most stupid thing I've ever heard." And I think that was actually by the legislator Tino Sorge, his quote. And Germany becomes the 9th country to legalize adult use cannabis of the drug, and which it will also become legal in some subnational jurisdictions in the United States of Australia, they say in closing on that. Well, this is great news for Morocco, and who knew that they had such an interesting program out there with, sounds like the good old 215 days, Yarrow, out there in Morocco.
What I like about this is that, when you think about the best vinegar in the world, take a look at the label, and it all says Modena on it. When you think about the best Parmesan cheese, take a look at the label.
Mm-hmm.
It's all from one little region. When you think about the best bubbly in a bottle, take a look at the label.
Mm-hmm.
It's all from Champagne. When you take a look at the label on your, what your best coffees.
It's why
they're.
It's why
And
Washington. It's like why Washington brands apples and why Idaho brands potatoes, and Nebraska.
Right, and so,
Nebraska markets corn.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So Morocco and hash, it's about time they take their rightful place on the winner's podium based on their historic and legacy production, and find a way to allow the international regulated market to pay a little more for something that has history and culture. I'll bet there are people who know how to make hash in Morocco, that those techniques, those methodologies have been passed down for generation and generation and generation. And while we might arguably create some of the best trichomes in Northern California, do I think that the methods of making the best hash are here? No, they're probably in Morocco. So I'm really excited about their ability to take a place on the world stage and export products, and all of that excites me to see these regions that already have history and already have cred step up to the plate. I think I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think this is great news. I like this story. Congratulations, Morocco. And who knew that's a crazy name? The name of their strain. I didn't realize that was the name of their strain. Where did you go? Here we go. Beldia, Beldia, is the name of their landrace strain out in Morocco. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's also interesting that it's drought tolerant, right? So one of the concerns that we've heard a lot is around the use of lots of water.
Mm-hmm.
And in some areas, even with tons of vineyards, people will put their hands up and say cannabis is a high water use product.
Mm-hmm.
That is true, but if you look at the dollar value of agricultural biomass that comes off an acre of cannabis relative to an acre of grapes, and the ratio of water usage in comparison, actually, drop per drop, cannabis is giving you more dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciated that their landrace strain was drought tolerant, because then they won't need to use a lot of water for growing commercial scale cannabis. And also, a lot of dry farmed plants have a more robust flavor. It's more concentrated. And so dry farming it can actually create a better product, both ecologically as well as on my palate.
Mm-hmm. Well, Yarrow, I think we should roll right into you, Yarrow, since you're rolling in the whip, you know what I'm saying, right into the Mr. Sebastopol Sage, who just got done doing a big cannabis deal, so he has a big bag of cash in the car, so he might be on a fast getaway someday. That's right, it's none other than Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Oh my gosh, if anybody realized how boring my life is, there'd be no canned applause or real applause. My day started off letting people into a commercial property for inspections, heading over to the Permit Resource Management Department to ask questions about topography and zoning, and then coming back to wait for an inspector to be done so I can lock them up. So really, I'm kind of like just a janitor with a fancy set of keys, and more like a production assistant on a movie than anything else. But I will say this: I live in a beautiful region, and the coffee is amazing. So No complaints. So, good morning, High at 9 News viewers. Jason, thanks for having me on. Once again, thanks for bearing with me. I'm obviously not at home to film this with the production value that I think is more aligned with the show in general. But I will be in front of a webcam here very shortly. In the meantime, I again went back to the gift that keeps on giving, which is New York. I feel guilty to even cover New York. Was this like our third article this morning about New York? New York, the gift that keeps on giving. So my article is from the New York Times, Jason. How New York must figure out how to fix cannabis mess. Hochul orders. Even the headlines got me laughing.
As soon as I saw it, I gave a chuckle too. I was like, it's like she's a big old dictator, especially after my last story about New York. You know what I mean? Like it sounded like they made this poor girl like she's like the Trump of cannabis in New York. How they're going after her.
I think this is so funny. It's like if I knocked over the Rice Krispies and they went flying all over the kitchen floor, and then I looked at my kids, I said, "You clean this up for me."
Yeah. It's all your fault.
In my house, if I knock it over, I actually have to clean it up. Like, my kids will serve me a hot plate, but they're not sweeping up my spilled over Rice Krispies.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this governor gets to do this, but without further ado, Governor Kathy Hochul ordered a review of the way New York State licensed cannabis businesses after calling the sluggish rollout of legal cannabis a disaster. Governor Kathy Hochul has told New York officials to come up with a fix for the way the state licenses cannabis businesses amid widespread frustration over the plodding pace of the state's legal cannabis rollout and the explosion of unlicensed dispensaries. The governor has ordered a top-to-bottom review of the state's licensing bureaucracy to begin Monday, weeks after she declared the rollout a disaster and called off a cannabis control board meeting when she learned the body was prepared to hand out only a few licenses. The main goal of the review, to be conducted by Jeanette Moy, the commissioner of the Office of General Services, is to shorten the time it takes to process applications and get businesses open, officials said. The State Office of Cannabis Management, which recommends applicants to the board for final approval, received 7,000 applications for licenses last fall from businesses seeking to open dispensaries, grow cannabis, and manufacture products. But regulators have awarded just 109 so far this year. The agency has just 32 people assigned to evaluate the applications. Ms. Moy has a proven track record of improving government operations, the governor said in a statement, and will provide a playbook to turn around the Cannabis Management Office and jumpstart the next phase of New York's legal cannabis market. In an interview, Ms. Moy said her goal was to work with the Cannabis Management Office to identify ways in which we can support them as they look to streamline and move forward some of the backlog and challenges that may be faced in this industry. The 2-year-old agency, whose executive director is Chris Alexander, an activist lawyer who helped write the state's marijuana legalization law, is facing mounting lawsuits and criticism over its process for awarding licenses. Applicants have filed lawsuits accusing the agency of overstepping its authority, giving conflicting guidance, and discriminating against white men in its push for diversity. Mr. Alexander acknowledged that there was more his agency could do to improve the licensing experience and said he believed Ms. Moy would help us get to where we need to be. Oh, God. Wait until you hear what I have to say about that.
Oh,
Lauren Ruddock, a lawyer who has helped clients submit over 100 license applications, love her, said she welcomed the review and hoped that it would lead to the creation of a transparent process for submitting applications and resolving issues that arise along the way. She said the licensing process was inconsistent with its guidelines and communication with applicants and lacked a process to resolve conflicts. She has watched with frustration as clients who took painstaking steps to do everything right were passed over for licenses that went to people who cut corners and seemed to benefit from personal relationships with agency officials, she said. We want to have a system that is repeatable and predictable so that when someone comes to us for licensing, we can give them a sense as to what they can expect. But as of right now, it's be flexible and pivot or die, because we just never know what the state is going to throw at us. The rollout has been delayed for months at a time by lawsuits, the state's month-long rulemaking process, and the state's failure to provide the startup loans and real estate that it promised to the first 150 dispensaries. The hiccups have left some businesses in financial distress and have hurt efforts to use a $5 billion industry to help small businesses and to repair communities hurt by the war on drugs. Although officials have issued over 500 licenses for retail dispensaries since November of 22, just 85 legal stores have opened across the state. 85? That's pathetic. Only 10 of those dispensaries have received state real estate and financial assistance. Those stores are far outnumbered by their unlicensed competitors, more than 1,500 of which have set up a shop in New York City alone. So I could go on. I mean, really, I could go on. But let me just talk about what's really going on here. Okay, so I studied public policy in college, which means I think my opinion matters a little bit when it comes to opining on the regulatory missteps, both policy and execution. So when Kathy Hochul gets angry and complains about what's happened on her watch, and then she appoints somebody who to come in and fix it, somebody who's already in that same government, and somebody who I'm not certain they have any cannabis experience, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to understand certain basic numbers. Mm-hmm. And those basic numbers, we can just pull from the article itself, right? Let's just pull from those. 7,000 applications, 109 awarded this year.
Yep.
The agency has 32 people to evaluate applications.
32
You don't
people.
need a miss. Yeah, you don't need a Mrs. Moy. You need a job posting on LinkedIn.
What do you think? What do you think?
You don't need somebody to come in and tell you that you have under-resourced the division that is supposed to process these permits.
Hold on. What do you think those 32 people do all day? Because you know whatever they do is not process licenses.
I think they probably do process licenses.
No
I
way.
think they process licenses all the time. I
bet you it's just like working at Twitter.
Job.
I bet you it was just like working at Twitter pre-Elon.
No.
Yeah,
No, listen,
I bet you it was just like that.
No, listen. I'll bet those 32 people are busting their hump. I'll bet they're doing overtime. I bet they're getting ulcers and gray hair.
They are
they're
charging
doing an
overtime.
amazing job.
I agree with that one.
I bet they're doing an amazing job. And the question
are you
is
just playing? You must be just playing off of my fourth story today, because you must have some deal cooking in New York, and you don't want to be all of a sudden get blacklisted by the OCM or something.
I have no interest in New York. My interest is in watching this industry scale across multiple state markets in a way that doesn't create dashed hopes and dreams for entrepreneurs and social equity applicants. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that 32 people are probably doing a heroic job. But when you have 7,000 applications and 32 people, maybe you need 64 people. Maybe you need 110 people.
Maybe you need a less complicated application. How about that? How about you need less government?
You need a staff that is commensurate with the workload.
How about they treat it like they're treating everything else? Just rubber stamp them. Just process them through. Who cares? You submit an application. Just rubber stamp them. Get them through. Get them open.
Listen, I know that New York.
We'll go through. We'll find them later.
Is not Oklahoma. And when we look at the number of dispensaries that have been, so when we think about like what are the numbers that show that you should be concerned and where are the places that need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And so when you see the number of applicants to the number of licenses issued, and you see the number of staff to the number of licenses to process, you don't need a study. You need to hire more people to solve the one portion that is glaringly the weakest link in your chain. Mm-hmm. And so until that's been done, studies and bringing in Ms. Moy and Kathy talking about how it's not working, nobody gets points for identifying a problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Nobody gets. Oh, thank you.
But you know what?
Thank you for telling me what the problem is. I want to know what your solution is. And when she says bringing in Miss Moy, she doesn't even say that she has an answer. She's saying, I don't know how to fix it. I'm going to have somebody else come in. That's going to buy me some time. And then I'm going to take their recommendations so that if their recommendations aren't effective, I can blame them instead of me. This is politics. They did not need to study anything. All they needed to do was call people in other established markets, look at the problems, call Cap Packer. Okay, let's talk about LA. Let's figure out how you don't go out and recreate the wheel that rolls over the hopes and dreams and resources of those who are new to newer adult use markets. So I think, unfortunately, I am going to have total job security on High at 9 News because I don't think these headlines are going to change anytime soon out of New York.
That is for sure, without a doubt. And man, New York, like I said last week, it's the gift that keeps on giving, and the market is just basically all weed for the people. But nonetheless, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of High at 9 News. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Yarrow, thanks for thugging it out with me all morning long. Hope you got a whole bunch of big bag of cash in the back seat of your car from all of those little backdoor real estate deals today. Much love. And thank you, audience, for all tuning in, joining us every day, every Monday through Friday here at High at 9 News. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.